Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back from the ad break. You're still watching Prime Life. Now, this evening, we are joined by Josh Murphy, Center Director for Mankind Project in Johannesburg. Now, we will be unpacking or his insights on the challenges and rewards of raising children in today's fast paced world. Whether you are a new parent or an experienced caregiver, Josh's perspective and practical advice will provide valuable insights into building a stronger, more loving, and well balanced families. Thank you so much for joining us, Josh, on Prime Life. Good evening, and you are welcome.
Alaikum salam. Pleased to see you. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, we will just get straight into this insightful topic. In your opinion, what are some of the biggest challenges that parents are faced with today?
So many. I think the main one probably information overload, and so I'll try to speak for myself personally and kind of my view of South Africa. So for myself, I work up in Pretoria. I stay in Joburg, so I'm spending a lot of time on the road, and that's time away from family. So I think trying to make it all balance out is quite difficult, and so kind of the stressors from trying to be professionally successful and successful as a parent is quite difficult. And then to try to put myself in the shoes of South Africans across the country. We've got high unemployment. The cost of living continues to go up. I think that's a major stressor on parents. It's certainly a major stressor on me as I see people in need across the country. And we try to support and give as much as you can. But in some ways, living in South Africa, you're torn between trying to support your kids and trying to support South Africa as much as you can.
Most definitely. Now, with the challenges that you have mentioned, how do you advise parents navigate these challenges so that they can, create a more supportive environment and relationship with their children?
So you know, being present, and I'll give some specific examples how I'm being present right now with my kids. So this last weekend, so blessed. We had one of the best weekends ever, and I'm glad I'm talking to you tonight after having one of those weekends because sometimes you can have a difficult weekend. So on Friday, I was lucky enough to take the day off and spend some time with my first grader school. So I served with some of the mothers there. I was the only father there, I would add. I wish there were more fathers, but that's how it is sometimes. So I volunteered through a little event there, a fundraising event. So the kids got to buy some snacks and treats, and they learned how to buy. Essentially, I mean, they're only first graders, so it was great to see my son in his own setting. And then on Saturday with my fifth grader, I was lucky enough to. This is at Delta Park High School, sorry, Delta Park Primary School. He participated in the Mr. and Mrs. Delta Park. So when you can, um, being able to participate in those school events and see your kids where they are, that to me, that presence and spending time deepens that connection. And it balances off the difficulty that we all have, whether we have work and we spend too much time at work or we're struggling to find work, which makes it difficult to be a parent in this day. So that's my take on that one. And we're lucky enough also to go to Comic Con on Sunday. So Friday with one kid's school, Saturday with another, and Comic Con. So this was a weekend where I really put my hobbies aside. I still try to keep some hobbies of my own, but as a parent, those really have to take second seat. And in that case, it worked out very well this last weekend.
Mm. That is so amazing. Thank you so much for sharing, your life or what has been happening during the weekend with your family, with us. I mean, it's very important, like the point that you've mentioned, which is presence in your children's life.
Mm,
But now let's speak about the role that communication plays in a healthy parent-child relationship.
yeah. So this is a tricky one because I want to be very clear. My kids are not my friends. I want to be friendly to my kids, but I'm their father.
Mm.
And so, uh, in part of my culture, I mean, you can hear from my accent that I'm American, but I'm also South African, and both those countries are our country here in South Africa and my home country, my country of citizenship, America. We have all sorts of different cultures and um, different ways of looking at things. I think there's been a small tendency um, in the way I grew up for the idea that your parents, you should be friends with your parents. And I think I want to get a little bit more traditional in the sense that I want to be friendly with my parents, but I want there to be clear boundaries.
Mm.
And when that comes to communication, I want them to hear me as a voice they can trust. I want them to be comfortable to share anything. So it's almost, and we talk about this in some specific ways. So they're not allowed to use certain language. It's adult language. It's not that it's bad for adults to speak a certain way. It's just that that's how adults should speak. So I connect with them, communicating with them as openly as possible, but as age appropriate as possible, if that makes sense.
Mm.
Um, I'm struggling with that question a little bit, but it's a struggle to communicate correctly with your kids all the time. And what I do is I'm just back at it each day. Sometimes at the end of the day, I think I didn't do so well, but God willing, there's always another day to do better.
Mm. And just to maybe dive a little bit more into this, what happens as a parent when you find yourself in a situation where you miscommunicated something to your child,
Oh,
or you
wow.
might have said something that maybe later on you reflect and say, you know what, maybe this was not the
Mm,
right way of communication. How do you fix that as a parent?
wow. Show. I think I'll be afraid to say I don't have a great answer for this one. I think openness and honesty. I'm just trying to think of the last thing I said incorrectly, and I'm not sure if I want to share with our large audience. Um, but I mean, I think from the values that I've learned through life, it's about being honest and taking responsibility for when you've misstepped immediately. So, um, I think I've certainly been careless with my words,
Mm.
and just to let my kids know I'm not perfect, and Dad will make mistakes, and let them know immediately when I've erred, and try to correct it. So that's a tough question, and that's what I'll stick with for the moment here.
Mm. No, but I believe you've answered it very beautifully, because I like the fact that you've mentioned that you'd like your children to know that you are their dad, but at the same time, you're not perfect and you're human. And
Mm,
it's okay to make mistakes, but as long as you can be able to take accountability for them, so you can be able to teach them what's right and what's wrong. But I want us to speak about discipline strategies, because earlier on you mentioned that as much as you
yes.
want to have a good relationship with your children, you want them to know that you are their father and you are not friends, even if you want them to be
Mm.
comfortable with you. Now, how do you set, boundaries, and how does discipline look like in that kind of a relationship without also making them feel like, oh no, he's like so scary, or, I'm so scared of my parents, and,
Yeah.
without also messing up with the whole parent-child relationship?
I love this question, and it is so difficult. Um, so I took some notes on this question, but I think I'll speak from the heart here. Um, I don't want to, and with absolute love to my father and how I was raised. It
Mm,
was a different generation,
mm,
and we're living in a different generation now, and we're doing the best we can. Um, so, and I'm gonna and I don't always go to this high standard, but I'm all about acceptance and support. So that might sound like, is Josh here, an overly permissive parent? And hey, my ex-wife might think so, but I think it's important when it comes to discipline to not shame, and you can see in my background, Mankind Project is a big part of how I've become a better father. And believe me, it's taken a long time. So I'm lucky enough to have an 11-year-old and a 7-year-old. And in the beginning, being a parent doesn't come with a manual. And I've taken courses, I've taken short courses, I've watched a whole lot of YouTube videos. I look at Circle of Security. That's one I would recommend. And that generally is when it comes to discipline. Like, you want to let the kids see the world, and help organize their feelings when they're having trouble. So, my kids are young, so the discipline issues, fortunately, are not that bad. But I always want to go to, is is the problem, is the discipline, is the infraction, so to speak, from the child, is it really is it really wrong, or is it something that's coming up in me? So I want to be compassionate to myself when, say, my kid is, when my two sons are fighting. So, are they just trying to get attention? Am I not paying enough attention? Am I not seeing them? So I want to, instead of thinking about how can I discipline them, how can I get them to stop, I'm thinking of what's the root cause. And that's, of course, it's easier said than done. But if I can see, if I can get to them when they want to be seen before they act out and start fighting each other because, hey, dad's on his phone too much, and I admit it, being on my phone too much is one of my problems. So I need to take responsibility for how I'm not showing up, being present in my son's life, and how I can avoid that conflict that happens to them. Of course, I still use timeouts. I still use a little bit of, you're not going to get this, you're not going to have dessert,
Mm.
these little things. And when possible, when the consequences of their actions they can learn themselves. Again, easier said than done, but these are the things
Mm.
I try to do as much as I can.
Mm. I mean, thank you so much for sharing that with us. It's a very beautiful way to deal with the whole discipline thing, and I just like the fact that you also
Mm,
mentioned that sometimes when children do wrong, you as a parent tend to ask yourself, do is it wrong what they're doing, or is it wrong from my perspective? Was it something that I feel is wrong? And I think that's a very important what do you call this point that you've just raised. But
mm,
in that, and in you trying to show up as the best parent, and minding what you say, taking accountability, making sure the discipline is good. I mean, sometimes it can take a toll on parents, and it's very important for us to speak about well-being, especially when it comes to parents. How does one prioritize their well-being while making sure that they can be supportive to their children?
yeah. So I need to share something here. So I'm a co-parent. I'm happily married to my wife, and I have a co-parent who is my ex-wife. And so, in terms of, if I'm understanding the question, how are caregivers taking care of themselves to be the best parents they can be?
Yes,
And so this
correct.
is, of course, we want marriages to stay together for the benefit of the kids. But I mean, I'm not sure the exact statistics, but we're talking about half of marriages aren't successful. Um, and co-parenting, um, this is going to sound strange, but I have the luxury of having my kids every other weekend. So I get to spend a weekend with my wife, and we get to spend our quality time. And then on the other weekends, I get my boys. So I'm in a situation where um, I can have that time to recharge. It feels weird saying that, and so now, I mean, the advice I'll give for the traditional, the marriage that is still intact. My advice there is to integrate the activities with things that we like as parents as well as children. So I'm very lucky to a part of this ultimate frisbee community. We play in Emerentia, and I could bring my kids there, and also trips away, up north to warm baths, and things you can do as a family, and ideally something where um, that you can be with your kids, but they can have a little bit of free time, and that's something I think we can struggle with in around Joburg, um, and that's why I love going to Emerentia Park, Delta Park, where the kids can run free a little bit, and you can recharge, as caregivers. And if that does that answer the question a bit?
It
I
does.
I, I,
It
sh-
does. I
I
think
shared a lot. I shared a lot there.
you did, and thank you so much for doing so. I mean, in that, I think I love the fact that you mentioned the whole co-parenting thing, because now it ties my next question with it, because
Okay.
it's very easy to if people are placed in one household, it can be not
Mm,
maybe easy, but it can be um, much manageable to be able to come to terms with how you decide to raise your children, you know. But if
Yes.
it's in a co-parenting situation, sometimes there may be you know, strategies that the other parent introduces to kids that the other parent doesn't agree with, and that can tend to cause like a little bit of issues here and there. So my question is, how do you manage that in a co-parenting situation? What is the healthy way, not only for the kids but also for yourself, because we're trying to be mindful of the parents' health, but also making sure that
Yes.
in them being mindful of their health, they're able to pour into their children and support them.
Yeah. So for myself, for people who co-parent in two separate houses, a parenting plan is critical,
Mm.
and 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 I think the idea, going back to, ooh, this can be so difficult. But just emphasizing to your co-parent, that you may disagree. So for me, it comes back to, I need to be compassionate to myself. I need to be compassionate to my kids, and I have to be compassionate to my co-parent. I may not always agree with the particular issue. Like, one issue now we're dealing with is deciding what school to go to for our fifth grader. He's got dyslexia. He's just struggling with his reading a little bit. So we're trying to decide what's the best course of action. And so I think this is a day by day effort. Um, and this was a situation where I felt my co-parent was trying to give too much kind of decision making power to the child, and I said, and this is where I put up a strong boundary. Actually, I said, we need to be the parents here, and we need to come up with a decision together, and we need to release our child of this responsibility. And so, give and take. I think some situations, in a co-parenting situation, whether husband and wife living in the same house, or divorcees living in certain houses, I really encourage everyone involved um, to stick with your convictions when you believe you're on the have the right path, and also be comfortable to um, let the other side pick your battles, so to speak. I hate to use the battle analogy in anything related to parenting, but that goes back to, in my case, a parenting plan, which, full disclosure, ours needs a bit of an update, and being compassionate to myself, my co-parent, and ultimately the kids. When it comes to any situation, like, I really come back to the kids. There's nothing. The kids are perfect as they are. If they're acting out, or if there's a challenge that the co-parents have to deal with, let's take self accountability, what might be off, before we start blaming the little ones. I kind of rambled there a bit, my friend, but again, another challenging question.
Mm. I mean, thank you so much for sharing, I mean, your journey with us, your story with us, and just for giving us insight on, you know, how to maybe best maneuver or navigate the whole parenting issue. But thank you so much. This was such an insightful conversation, and just seeing things from your lens and being able to share with us how you also manage some situation has been very, very interesting. And I think it provided a lot of clarity for parents that are watching right now in terms of how they can also navigate parenthood, or caregivers that are also watching, so they can be better caregivers to the ones that they're looking after. So thank you so much for joining us, Josh, and it was really a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you so much. I love your challenging questions, and best to all the viewers at home, and keep up the great work.
Thank you so much. Viewers at home,
Thank
that
you.
was Josh Murphy, who is Center Director for Mankind Project in Johannesburg. And the topic in particular that we were tackling was parenting with compassion, clarity, and connection. And I hope this left you feeling inspired to better yourself in order for you to be there for your little ones in the best possible way. But without wasting any time, we will head over to a quick break. We'll see you after this.